Hey guys, welcome to a brand new video on my channel, Meg's Movies. If you are new to this channel, this is basically where I talk to you guys about my passion for movies. This goes from collections, hauls, reviews, and today's video, so let's get into it. Okay, so we're on to the next Ghostbusters review, and today it is Ghostbusters Afterlife. Now, I'm fairly certain I did do a review for this when it first came out, which was a couple of years ago. At least I'm fairly certain, I might be wrong. But if so, this is a re-review basically, just to see if my opinions might have changed, or, you know, if when I'm doing my ranking, maybe it might go lower or higher. So, yeah, because I haven't watched this film in quite some time, actually. I don't think I'd watched this since I picked it up, actually, because I think I've seen it twice. This will be the third time. Okay, so just to give you a very basic plot summary, we are following the family members of Egon Spangler. He had recently just passed away, and basically they inherit this farm that he moved to, and basically they learn that he's a Ghostbuster. And then, of course, there's some evil brewing in the town that he lived in. I'm not going to say any more than that. I try and stay as spoiler-free as possible with plot summaries. It can be quite hard because it depends how you try to explain it, so I do apologise if I have spoiled anything, but I do try my best not to. So, with revisiting this, I knew for a fact that both times I had watched this previously, I had enjoyed them. And I still do. This is still a really good sequel. I really enjoyed this film. Not only did they modernise it so that way the more modern generation can get into a franchise that is now years and decades old, but it also had nostalgia for the people that were fans of the original two films that we had. So it mixed the two together, I think, really well. Of course, with this one, the family of Egon Spangler, the actor, he had passed away before this film had even been a thing. So, apologies, there's sirens. So, I will say I think they did a very good job of mixing it in and sort of like dealing with that fact, because certain things, when you do have things like that, it can be hard to deal with. Depends on how they want to take it and sort of like deal with it. But they did a very good job. I think they honoured him in a very good way. And so not just that, but some of the other actors came back as well, which was pretty cool. So this is what I mean by it was a mix of new and nostalgia. So obviously when you had some of the original actors come back, that was really good. So it made you feel very hyped for the film again. You were like, oh, this feels like a Ghostbusters film, you know. And the fact that the last half hour of the film is one of my absolute favourites of the movie, hands down, is saying something. Because not only did it mix the new and the old, it just felt like it was a proper, like, nice sequel. Sometimes when you do a sequel for a franchise that you haven't done for decades, it can be a hit or a miss. So it depends on how they deal with it as to how good it can come out. And this one did really well. I think it helps that you had the son of Ivan Reitman directing this film, because obviously Ivan was the one that directed the original films. So I think it's because the fact that he, growing up, the son, was on set. So he was there to see his dad work and direct these films. So I think that's another reason why this film is a really good sequel, is because you had the son of the director of the original films, so he knew sort of like how to do a sequel for Ghostbusters years later. I like the fact that it's like I said, there's so many little nods to the original film, which is really good. I do like that. I also like the addition of the new characters. I like the fact that we've gone with a family angle, with the fact of it's the family of Egon. So I think that was quite nice in how they dealt with the plot, because with, yet again, with a sequel that's set years after the original film. The plot has to be good, and it has to sort of like link to the original film in some way. So I think that's really cool that they did that. I like the fact that all the actors in this did a really good job, especially the new ones. I loved Paul Rudd in this, not gonna lie, who's quite funny to see in that film. But the young actors as well. I like the fact that this was kid focused. That was sort of different. Because obviously the first two are more adults, obviously. But I think it's nice that the kids got involved. And yeah, just overall, Ghostbusters Afterlife is a really good sequel. And I will admit that I cried at the end when I first saw this in the cinema. Didn't cry so much this time around, but whether that's because I was watching it in bed, so I was awake but not fully awake, so maybe that might be the thing. But I think overall, for a sequel that's set years later, it is really good, and I think that's half the reason why we're getting a lot more sequels to older films now, because of how Ghostbusters Afterlife went. My only gripe, though, I will say, is... Well, it's not really a gripe, per se. It's just... They made a knockoff of Slimer, basically. I don't know why. I need to look into that. But there's this blue muncher, I think they called it, who's kind of similar to Slimer. So I do feel like that was a little bit of a letdown for me, because they did bring back other things from the original film. I mean... The plot for this is pretty much the original, but just set in modern times and just done a little bit differently. But they also brought back, like, the little Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. Like, even though he was massive in the original, they made, like, little versions of him. So I don't get why they couldn't bring back Slimer. That's something that confused me a little bit, I'm not going to lie. But the effects in this are really good. It does rely on CGI more than practical. But... there was this practical zombie effect, which I actually quite like. That was really cool to see. But it's a sequel that did make you feel like you're watching a Ghostbusters film. It didn't feel like a knockoff. It didn't feel like a bad sequel. It actually was really good. And I remember when I went to go and see this in the cinema and how I came out of it going, I love this film. This is so good. This feels like a Ghostbusters film. You know, it was the ending, the plot, the characters, like, everything. It was so good. Of course, I don't think anything will beat the original, but this one does come pretty close. And I will say, after watching this one in the cinema, I was hyped for when we might get another Ghostbusters film. And I think that's pretty cool. I love it when a sequel can bring not only a generation of people that love the original films, but also bring in a new generation as well. Because, say, like I said, doing a sequel years on can be hit or miss. So, this one was a hit for me. I really enjoyed it. But yeah, overall, final words. Absolutely great sequel. Heartfelt, emotional. It had some funny moments in this as well. It's not as funny as the original, I will admit. I think it takes more of a serious route in this one. But I do enjoy the fact that it does do something a bit more serious than funny. And yeah, just after watching 3 of the Ghostbusters films, I am actually kind of hyped to go and see Frozen Empire on Monday. So I'm hoping it's going to be good. I've heard mixed things. But anyway, so Ghostbusters Afterlife, my final score for this film is an 8.5 out of 10. This is a really good sequel. It's fun, it's entertaining, and I will say if you haven't watched it, definitely give it a go. I would say maybe watch the original film before you watch this one, just so you can get some of the nods and things like that. Also, there's 2 end credit scenes, which are actually really enjoyable. I do like that. Especially with the first end credit scene where they bring back another one of the characters, which I weren't expecting. But yet again, that end credit scene was a nod to the original. And then, of course, the second one was to help set up Frozen Empire, which I think they did it in a very good way. So I think for what they did and how they dealt with certain things, like I said, with the Harold Ramis thing, I think they dealt with it very well, and I'm so glad we got this sequel years and years and years later. So yeah, I really hope you enjoyed this review of Ghostbusters Afterlife. If you did, then do give it a thumbs up, and also hit that notification bell down below to be notified when I post. And also leave me your comments and thoughts on Ghostbusters Afterlife. Do you think it was a worthy sequel? Do you think the second one of the original film was better? Let me know in the comments down below, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!